the phone call, that phone call. I went for my mammogram, and the following day I received a call telling me that I needed to come back. They wanted to repeat the mammogram and also to do an ultrasound. So I went back. And while I was having the ultrasound, the doctor looked at the screen and said something that I will never forget. The year I missed my mammogram, my breast cancer journey. Welcome back to Conversations with Petra. Today I want to have a personal conversation with you. This is a story about something that happened to me. It's a story about fear, loss, cancer, acceptance, and something I really want every woman listening to take seriously. I'm sharing this because sometimes we don't realize how important something is until it happens to you. And my story begins with something I had been doing faithfully for years. I never missed my mammogram. I started having mammogram when I was around 40 years old. And for years, I never missed one. I understood the importance of getting checked. But in 2014, I suffered a loss. I lost someone who I loved very much. And I was grieving. And that year, for the first time, I missed my mammogram. Just 1 year. I didn't think much about it at the time, but there was something else. I had felt a lump in my right breast. It was tiny, almost like a pea, but I didn't think it was anything serious. Why? Because I had always have cystic breast, and over the years I had already have several lumps removed, about 5 of them, and they were all benign. So in my mind I thought, I've been through this before, it's probably nothing. But I decided to get it checked, and I'm glad I did. The phone call, that phone call. I went for my mammogram, and the following day I received a call telling me that I needed to come back. They wanted to repeat the mammogram and also to do an ultrasound. So I went back. And while I was having the ultrasound, the doctor looked at the screen and said something that I will never forget. She said, "It looks suspicious." Now, when I heard the word suspicious, I immediately knew what she meant. I had a sister who had breast cancer, and I remembered hearing doctors use that word before. To me, suspicious meant they weren't ready to tell me exactly what they were seeing, but I already knew. In my heart, I thought, this is breast cancer. And then I had to wait. Waiting for the call, the doctor who had sent me for the test was my gynecologist. And I was expecting her to call me. So I went home. And this is going to sound strange, but I remember thinking that I needed to eat. I made sure I had a big meal before the call came. I made sure the meal was big enough that I had enough strength to break the bad news to my children. Because I thought to myself, this might be my last meal. This might be the last time I can eat without worrying about what is going to happen to me. That's how frightened I was. You have to understand where that fear came from. Cancer to me was almost like a death sentence. I had already lost 2 siblings and my father to cancer. So when I heard that something in my breast looked suspicious, my mind immediately went to death. I wasn't thinking about treatment. I wasn't thinking about survival. I was thinking, I am going to die. The only thing I didn't think of was when hearing the diagnosis, when I finally learned that it was breast cancer, I was shocked. I was confused. I was worried. I didn't know what the future was going to look like. But I also had my family around me. And I talked about it. I talked about what was happening. I didn't keep it hidden. And the more I talked about it and accepted what was happening, the more I realized something. I had to go through it. I couldn't wish it away. I couldn't pretend it wasn't happening. So I decided that I was going to deal with it one step at a time. My son went with me to my consultation. The doctor showed me everything on the screen and explained things to me for about an hour. And honestly, I don't remember much of what they said. I was sitting there, but my mind wasn't really there. All I wanted was to get through the process. I wanted the surgery. I wanted to get it out. And the surgery. I had lumpectomy in December. And I remember because I had already planned a trip to Jamaica for Christmas. I was looking forward to going, but unfortunately, the trip never happened. A few days after Christmas, I was called back to the hospital. They told me that the cancer was so close to the lymph nodes, they needed to remove some lymph nodes so they could test them. That was another frightening moment because once again, you're waiting. You're wondering, did it spread? Thankful, the results showed that the cancer had not reached the lymph nodes. That was a huge relief. But by then, I had learned something about cancer. You can never take anything for granted. Then came 2019. Now I want to jump ahead to 2019. The cancer came back. And you might think that the second time would have been more frightening, but strangely enough, it wasn't. In 2014, I was terrified. I thought cancer meant death. But by 2019, my thinking had changed. I remember saying to myself, if this comes back and I'm going to die, then it's God's will. There's nothing I can do about it. Even though at the same time when I was going through cancer, my son was grieving. He had lost his father. But I left everything to that person who I had no control over. And I wasn't saying that because I didn't care about living. I cared very much about living, but I had learned acceptance. I had learned that there are some things in life that we cannot control. And instead of spending all my energy being afraid of what might happen, I decided to face whatever came next. What I want women to know. And this is really why I'm telling this story. Ladies, please don't ignore your body. If you feel something that wasn't there before, get it checked. Don't assume that because you have been had benign lumps before, this one must be benign too. I made the assumption I had cystic breast and I already had several benign lumps removed. So when I felt that lump, I didn't immediately think cancer, but I got it checked, and that's what matters. And please don't let fear keep you from getting your mammogram. I know what fear feels like. I know what it's like to sit there waiting for a phone call and wondering if your life is about to change. But I learned something very important. Sometimes fear is worse than knowing, because when you don't know, your mind can take you to the worst place. You can imagine yourself dying. You can imagine your family without you. You can imagine all kinds of terrible things. But when you know what you're dealing with, you can plan. You can get treatment. You can ask questions. You can make your family support you. And you can take one day at a time. My message to you. So if you are a woman watching this and you have been putting off your mammogram because you're afraid of what they might find, please don't. Don't let fear make the decision for you. Get checked. Pay attention to your body. If you find a lump, don't ignore it. It may turn out to be nothing, but if it is something, the sooner you know, the sooner you can deal with it. And I want to say something else. Getting cancer does not automatically mean your life is over. When I first heard the word breast cancer, I thought I was hearing a death sentence, but I am here today. I'm talking to you. I'm telling you my story. And that's something I never imagined I would be doing back then. Looking back, when I look back at the woman in 2014, I remember how frightened she was. I remember sitting there waiting for that call. I remember thinking that I might be eating my last meal. And I wish I could go back and tell that woman, Petra, breathe. You don't know what tomorrow will bring. Don't bury yourself before your time, because sometimes that's what fear does. Fear makes us mourn things that haven't happened. Fear makes us believe the worst before we know the truth. And I don't want another woman to go through that alone. So that's why I'm sharing this. Not because I want sympathy, not because I want anyone to feel sorry for me. I'm sharing it because if my story encourages one woman to make that appointment, get that mammogram, check that lump, or simply stop ignoring something that concerns her, then telling my story was worth it. This is my story. This is one chapter of my life, and I'm still here. So ladies, take care of yourself. Don't ignore your body. Don't be afraid to ask questions, and don't allow fear stop you from getting checked. Because sometimes knowing is scary, but not knowing can be even scarier. Thank you for sitting down with me for another conversation. This conversation is with Petra. And until our next conversation, take care of yourself, take care of your health, and remember, your life is worth fighting for.